Welcome to today's session from Kitchener Developer Group. We have Julian from Salesforce today, and he is going to let us know about Heroku and how we can integrate Heroku with Salesforce. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Sudipta Deb. I'm a Salesforce independent technical architect. I'm a platform champion. This is my blog. I am 12 Salesforce certified application architect. I'm leading the Kitchener Developer Group, and I am more than 400 plus trailhead badges, and this is my Twitter handle. So without any further delay, I would like to hand over this to Julian.
So first and foremost, thank you all for coming to this meetup. You are right now attending to the Kitchener Developer User Group, and we are going to learn about Heroku and why it's important or why it matters to us as Salesforce developers. My name is Julian Duque. I am a lead developer advocate at Salesforce, working mainly with the Heroku team. You can find on the slides my email and Twitter. If you have any question after the presentation, you can drop me a line and I will be more than happy to reply. Personally, I am more active on Twitter, believe it or not, and my DMs are open, so you can drop a DM and I will reply for sure. So let's start. Also, as a reminder, you can connect with us. We are the Salesforce developers team and the developer relationship team. You can find our website on developers.salesforce.com. Our Twitter account is @SalesforceDevs, and we have different channels where you can connect with us. We are recently streaming and publishing a lot of content on our YouTube channel. So I will invite you to go to the Salesforce Developers YouTube channel. We have quick takes, which are like quick 5 to 8 minute long videos that are going to teach you specific content. We are streaming live episodes, a lot of code lives, and other different topics all about Salesforce. So you can find more information there. I am currently running a series teaching Node.js. I'm doing an introduction to Node.js for Salesforce developers, trying to level you up and make sure that you are going to get the proper skills to learn some amazing things that we are about to release. Some of those are going to be called Salesforce functions. Maybe you have heard about those. We announced those on Dreamforce 2019, and finally this year that runtime are going to see the light, and you're going to start like building applications with modern open source technologies. And before starting, remember that Salesforce is a publicly traded company. So this is the statement. Please don't make any financial movements with this stock. I am not a financial advisor, and I am not going to tell you how to invest your money. So be careful and be mindful about that. And with that, I am ready to start the content. So let's talk about Heroku. Usually when I give this presentation to the public, sadly, we can't meet in real life right now. Hopefully, maybe next year when all of us are vaccinated, I will be able to travel to Kitchener and meet the beautiful city and meet you all in real time. Right now, we need to do this remotely. But usually I ask if you recognize this brand, if you recognize Heroku, or if you have used Heroku. If you haven't, I'm going to tell you what it is and why it matters for us as Salesforce developers. So Heroku is a platform as a service. This is a cloud term, a cloud computing term. Pretty much it means that we are giving you a platform so you can deploy your applications. You can run your applications. You will not need to worry about the operations of this platform. So you don't need to worry about installing an operating system, doing maintenance on certain things. We at Heroku are going to take care of that. Similar to Salesforce. Salesforce can be considered as a software as a service, but for me, Salesforce is a platform as a service. It is more than a software. It's a platform where you can build and deploy enterprise applications with a lot of different use cases and with a bunch of tools that are going to simplify your life. You don't need to worry about operations, maintenance, infrastructure. We are taking care of that for you. So pretty much, Heroku, it is a platform as a service for open source runtimes and programming languages. And I'm going to be talking about the different languages we support. So when you want to take an idea, turn that idea into an application and get that application into the public, you will need to pretty much have a lot of different decisions in place. So this is a normal diagram of the different decisions that you will need to do while deploying an application to the internet, to a cloud provider. So first, you will need to select an infrastructure as a service provider. I'm going to deploy my application on AWS, on Microsoft Azure, on Google Cloud. If I already selected the infrastructure where I'm going to deploy my application, what are going to be my operating system? I am going to be deploying on Linux, on Windows. And if it is Linux, what distribution of Linux? And if it is Windows, what license of Windows I'm going to use to deploy the application? Then I will need to make other decisions on top of that. I am going to use containers. If it is containers, I am using Rocket, I am using Docker, or do I need to set up an orchestration layer using Kubernetes or Swarm? So there is a lot of different things that can be super overwhelming to us as developers. Normally, companies have a DevOps team or a system reliable engineering team that takes care of this decision for us. And we just focus on building the application and giving the application to them so they deploy this app to the cloud. But normally as single developers, we need to make a lot of decisions. With Heroku, we abstract this for you. We already make all of these decisions for you and provide you a way so you can deploy your applications very easily or very simple with few instructions. You don't need to worry about the operating system. You don't need to worry about the hard drive or the CPU, memory. Those are things that are already decided by us. This is an opinionated platform. So we already took care of that. We have been running this platform for years. We have a bunch of different customers, from the hobbyist like us that just want to have an application deployed to Heroku, to huge companies that have more than 1,000 applications running on a single system. So we provide you the tools so you can deploy this application. You can manage the application. You will take care of checking metrics, checking the logs, being able to maintain this application running without a lot of effort, and also tools for you to scale the application. Just in case you are receiving a bunch of traffic or a lot of users are hitting your application, you can easily on Heroku scale it, adding more virtual machines or Dinos, and I'm going to be mentioning that concept later. So this application will be able to manage way more scale, to manage way more users. I am not sure if you followed the United States elections when Joe Biden was on the possession ceremony. One of the senators of United States, Bernie Sanders, was caught on camera sitting on a very relaxed pose using some mittens for the cold weather, and that picture became a meme. A lot of people started to do some photoshopping on that picture and putting Bernie Sanders in different funny places. Somebody decided to create an application where you will be able to use Google Maps and put Bernie Sanders wherever in the world. That application was deployed to Heroku, and obviously the media got that URL and that app became viral. This was a hobbyist. He was not like a company that were creating this application. It was just a single person that was building this app for fun. But since millions of users were hitting the app and the app was just running on one virtual machine, obviously it had scaling issues. A lot of traffic came in and he wasn't able to manage all of that traffic. So we became aware of this hit, this social media hit, and we helped this developer scaling the application. We also give them like credit, so they were able to do it for free for that specific period of time. And after that, the application was able to manage a bunch of multiple people loading the app at the same time. So this was pretty simple for the developer and for us because we provide the tools to do it specifically. And I'm going to show you later how can we easily scale an application on Heroku. We continue. So what's in Heroku? So besides a platform for you to deploy applications, we have other products around. So we offer you the dev tools available to deploy and manage an application on Heroku. So we provide CLI tools that lets you deploy, create applications, manage teams, add external add-ons to your application, making sure your processes are running. And I'm going to be showing you on a demo how this CLI tool works. We also provide web dashboards. Pretty much whatever you can do on the CLI, you can do it on a web dashboard. And let's hope we are not having any issue when I'm going to show you anything right now. And this is a warning I'm going to tell you. I am going to do live coding and things that are not scripted, so things might fail. If they fail, we will figure it out and we would fix it along the way. So that way you can see that this is real and not a pre-recorded session or something like that. On top of the app development layer, we have data services. We also support 3 different and very popular open source databases. One is PostgreSQL. It is a relational database where you can use SQL queries to operate with that. It is one of the most popular SQL databases and one of the most performant. So it is a very good option if you are going to have an enterprise application running with a relational database. We also support Redis. Redis is a key value NoSQL database that is very popular for catching or doing distributed applications. And we also support Apache Kafka. Apache Kafka is also an open source, more than a database, it's an open source streaming real-time messaging system. So you will be able to have real-time microservices and connect with multiple systems using a message bus. And on top of that, we have security features, we have monitoring, we have scaling tools for you to increase the size of your applications. And we have an external marketplace where you can also bring other different providers into your app. We officially support PostgreSQL, but that doesn't stop you to use a database like MySQL or MongoDB, for example. Those are going to be provided by third-party providers that create those add-ons for you as well. Think of these Elements Marketplace, is how we call it, as an app exchange for Heroku applications. And we also have a layer of compliance and trust. I told you that Heroku, it is from the hobbyist, like the developer that is learning how to build web applications and deploy to the cloud, to huge and big enterprises that are running thousands of applications in production. So for those, we also have products like Private Spaces and Heroku Shield. Private spaces are a specific virtual private cloud for the customers. They are not going to be running on a multi-tenant system. They are not going to be sharing resources with other developers. They are going to have their own cloud for them, and things are going to be more isolated and secure. And we also offer certain specific connectors to AWS. For example, if you are running a database on AWS or you have a VPN between AWS services and Heroku, you can do them by using private spaces. And we have Heroku Shield in case your application manages health data or personal information, and you need to have like compliance in your app, like HIPAA or PCI, we offer Heroku Shield, which has specific file systems that are encrypted, that allows you to be able to manage this information in a way more safe and secure way. Let me go next. It is time to do our first deploy. So let me show you a couple of resources that are going to help you how to deploy an application to Heroku. So we have the Heroku.com website. Here you are going to find all the information about the platform. And from here, you will be able to create or sign up for an account. If you sign up to the account, it's going to be free. You don't need to enter your credit card. If it asks you for your credit card, it will give you 1,000 hours a month to run an application. If you don't provide the credit card, it will be only 500 hours. The credit card is just for validation and abuse prevention, because a lot of people can create a free account and put like a malicious application in here. So we have like certain things to prevent that. But you will be able to have a free account and start building your app and deploying your app without any issue. You are going to ask me, Julian, but a month doesn't have 1,000 hours. It has around 750 something. What's going to happen with the rest of the hours? You can also run, besides a web application, you can also run worker services. A worker service is going to be a process that's going to be running every certain time, or is going to be running for certain operations that are going to spend those hours without wasting the time of the web application you are going to deploy. So this is possible on the hobby dev tier. This is the tier for us, the hobby developers that want to use this platform. But if you need more resources and more applications, you will need to get into a paid plan depending on your needs. You need to pay for getting more resources on the platform. But you can use Heroku for free, and pretty much all of the things I'm going to be showing you today, you can do them for free. The other website that I'm going to show you is the Dev Center, devcenter.heroku.com. So Dev Center is our documentation site. Here you are going to find everything related to how to use Heroku. From this web page, you are going to see the 8 official programming languages and runtimes we support. This doesn't mean that you can deploy a .NET application to Heroku. You will be able to do it, but it is not officially supported by us. And I'm going to tell you how can you use other different languages like Elixir, or I told you there is also Swift. You can use .NET. I think I also see COBOL applications running on Heroku. There are like some crazy stuff that other developers have done. But all of those are through the Elements Marketplace. On the Elements Marketplace, this third-party website that I'm going to be opening, I didn't have it open. The Elements Marketplace is where you can find both the supported add-ons that we created and some other third-party services from other companies. And there is something called the build packs. Build packs is what builds an Heroku application. So we have the Heroku supported build packs, the ones that we create. Those are going to be the ones that support these different languages. But you can find, let's say, I'm going to deploy using Swift build packs. And from here, I have different build packs that use Swift. For example, this is created by IBM, that are going to use the Swift programming language to deploy a Swift application to Heroku. So Heroku is going to be very powerful for supporting other languages as well through the Element Marketplace. But these are going to be community supported build packs. Let's get back to the official ones. And on Dev Center, you will be able to get started with Heroku. So if you have never used Heroku, I'm going to invite you to go to this website, devcenter.heroku.com, pick the language of your choice. You can choose whatever language you know or you want to learn. and follow the instructions. I am going to be doing the demo using Node.js because it is my runtime of choice using the programming languages JavaScript. I've been working with JavaScript and Node.js since 2011. So for me, it's way easier to use Node and I feel way more comfortable with it. But if you use Java or PHP, feel free to follow the same steps using those languages. So you can click on Node.js, and here there is this beautiful button that says get started with Node.js. You click on it and it will show you a tutorial style guide that will take you from the very beginning to more advanced stuff with your app. So I am ready to start, and it will start asking you to install the prerequisites to be able to follow the tutorial. So you will need to have Git installed in your computer. Git is very important because our deployment process is Git-based. The same way you push your code into a control version system using Git, it is the same way we are going to be pushing our applications to Heroku. Then you will need to install the Heroku CLI. It's going to be the developer tool to create and manage an application. So we support Mac, Windows, and Linux. So there are like different ways of installing the Heroku CLI. You can find all of the information here on this guide. And depending on the programming language you are going to use, you will need to have that runtime or programming language installed in your computer. I also recommend to use Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a great editor for multiple open source programming languages. And we also use Visual Studio Code as the default IDE for Salesforce applications using the Salesforce DX or the Salesforce developer tools that we created for you on the Visual Studio Marketplace. So one, I already have Heroku installed. Let's continue with the tutorial, and it will ask us to clone a basic repository. This has like an example Node.js application or example Java or PHP, depending on the language of your choice, and it will guide you on how to deploy it to Heroku. So I'm going to be following those instructions. From here, I already have everything installed. So let's copy this line. Let me go to the terminal. I don't have anything in here, so we are going to start from scratch. Let me confirm that I have installed Git. So I think with version. So I have Git installed. Fantastic. I have the Heroku CLI installed. So I have Heroku installed, and I have Node.js installed. So I have all of the different prerequisites to be able to follow the application. I'm already logged in on Heroku, but if you are doing this for the first time, you will need to do something like Heroku login, and it will open a website when you are going to enter your credentials and authorize the CLI. I am already logged in, so I'm going to do Heroku Who Am I to make sure that I have everything ready, and it recognizes me as J. Duque or J. Duque, depending on the language you speak. I'm usually a Spanish speaker. Okay, so I am ready. Let's follow the instructions. I'm going to be cloning that Node.js getting started guide. Let me open the project. This is a Node.js project. I'm going to be opening it with Visual Studio Code. Let's hope I have good zoom. I don't have good zoom, so I'm going to increase this so you look at this properly. And if I open the index.js here, if you know Node.js, I am using Express, which is a library to create web applications, and I am setting one route that is going to render the index view that I have created here on pages. There is the views, pages, index. So I have like some sort of HTML with information that are going to be showing to you. And this application is ready to be deployed to Heroku. So a couple of things that I want to show you. This is specifically to a Node.js application. On the package.json, we are going to find some scripts. These scripts are going to start or run the test for my application. So Heroku will detect if you have the start script in your Node.js project and will automatically execute this command. If it doesn't have it, you will need to create something called the Proc File. The Proc File is a file that describes the different processes you are running on an application and the command that is going to be executed to start that process. The default process is going to be called web, but if you have any other script or tool that want to be executed here, you can create a line. For example, you are going to run a worker process that is going to process some information from a database. You can specify a line here to say my worker process is going to be executed by the following command. Okay. So since this is a Node.js application, the first thing we need to do after cloning a Node repository is running npm install. Npm install is going to get all of the dependencies that are listed on the package JSON. In this case, EJS, which is for using templates, and Express, which is the web framework that I mentioned. I already executed npm install, so I have all of the dependencies installed locally. And I can run npm start if I want to run this project locally. So it says that my project is listening on the port 5000. So if I go to a web browser, localhost 5000, I have the application that I'm going to be deploying. This is local development. This is not on Heroku yet. But this is the web app that we are going to deploy. Okay. So how you need to do the port listening, and this is very important on a web application. Heroku will specify the port where your application is going to be running using an environment variable. An environment variable is a variable that it's on the environment you are running your application. Heroku assigns a random port, and that lets the Heroku router, the tool that allows the translation of an URL to that specific Dyno or process that is running your application. So you will need to always listen first on that environment variable and assign that port into the process that is listening your application. This applies for Java, Go, Python, any languages you are using. Make sure it is listening by using the port variable on the environment. And this is going to be specified in the guide you are going to be following. Otherwise, I'm using the 5000 for local development. So if I want to make sure that this is going to be running on Heroku properly, I can use the command Heroku Local. Oops, but in lowercase. So Heroku Local is going to execute this project using the Heroku way locally. So as you can see, it detected that it will execute the node index.js command, and it is still listening on port 5000. So if I go here and refresh, I'm getting the same result. So this is the same application running locally. But I remember that I told you that I want to take this application into production, that I want to take this application to my customers. What do I need to do? So the first thing that I need to do is to create an application in Heroku for my code. We can do it by running Heroku create. If you run Heroku create without any arguments, it will select a random name. So we always have a way to select random names, and that name will be assigned to your application. Otherwise, you will need to provide an unique name for your app. And this needs to be unique because remember, you are sharing resources with a bunch of different users. So that subdomain, we are going to be providing you a domain with SSL. So it's going to be secure for you for free, but you will need to come up with the subdomain name. So in this case, I'm going to be calling this JDuque to make it unique, Kitchener user group. So after I created my application, remember that we need to have the code on Git before doing this. So my code is already on Git. As you can see here on my terminal, it says that I'm on the main branch. And it created for us this application on this URL. So if I open this URL, and you can do it right now from there, jduque dash kitchener dash ug.herokuapp.com. If you see that, we are going to have a placeholder for our app. It doesn't have anything, it doesn't have any code, but at least we have reserved the space. Then we will need to push our code to be able to have our page here. How can we do that? We do that by running Git. So we make sure we have all of our changes committed into our code, into our repository. So I'm going to be adding the code, doing a commit. This is adding the package log. That's a commit I'm going to do. And after we have the code, we need to push this to Heroku. How can we push this to Heroku? By running git push Heroku main. In this case, Heroku is the origin, is where I'm going to be pushing the code, and main is the name of my branch. If your branch is called master, you will need to say git push Heroku master. If your branch is called main, it will be git push Heroku main. Those are going to be the base branches that Heroku supports. In this case, let's deploy to main. And now Heroku detects our code. As you can see here, we detect that this is an Node.js application, and we are going to be using our supported build pack. Then it starts installing the binaries and dependencies where your application is going to be running. So it gets the package JSON, makes sure that you have all of the different dependencies installed, and then it's going to be building an image. So we use container technologies. So we create a container image that we call that a slug. It is a basic file that contains our application and the description of our application, and we put that into a Dyno. The Dyno is the, think of a virtual machine or the minimum computer unit where your application is going to be running. So it put that image into the Dyno, it starts the Dyno, and now your application is running. Here you can see that the application has been released, then has been deployed to Heroku. It gives us the URL. So if I refresh, and you can refresh too, we have the website deployed. So right now we did our first deployed on Heroku. Remember that whatever you can do on the CLI tool, like create an application and manage the application. For example, I can take a look at the processes with Heroku PS. It will list the processes that are running. So it detects that we have a web process running on a free Dyno, and that process is up 1 minute ago. These same operations can be done on the dashboard. So let me go to the dashboard, refresh the dashboard. And here we can see that we have the Kitchener UG application that we just deployed. So if we enter these, we take a look at the activity, who deployed, we can take a look at the build log, and we can take a look at the resources. Right now I'm using the free Dyno, but let's say I want to change it to a paid Dyno or something more big and expensive. Let's say my application needs more memory, more CPU, because I'm making sure this application is going to manage and handle a lot of different users. I can switch to the professional Dynos. What is the main difference between the free Dyno and the hobby Dyno? Well, the free Dyno is good for you to learn about Heroku, to run your applications. The only thing that happens on the free Dyno is that after 30 minutes of no usage, we are going to put that Dyno into sleep. If a new request comes in, we need to wake up that Dyno, and that process might take 30 seconds. So you know that that is a lot of time while trying to load an application. So that's the only caveat while using the free or the hobby Dyno. The hobby Dyno doesn't go to sleep, the free Dyno go to sleep, but you can have your website or your application on the free Dyno forever and nothing is going to happen. Okay, so let me go on expensive one so I can show you scaling. Let me switch quickly, save, awesome. Now I am on something called the 1x Dyno. If you can see here, I have more RAM, 512 megabytes of RAM, or if I need 1 gigabyte, or if I need 14 gigabytes of RAM, depending on the resources you are going to be using, you can easily switch. And this is just moving your application to a different Dyno and restarting it. You don't need to do anything else. Right now, I'm running on one Dyno. Let's say this website got very popular and it got published on Hacker News or on Twitter and is getting a lot of traffic. I can easily go to the dashboard, click on edit, and say, hey, I want to run this on 10 different dynos, confirm, and now my application is running on 10 different virtual machines that are being load balanced automatically by Heroku. If I go to the console and I execute Heroku PS, now you can see that I have 10 different processes that are running and that are handling requests right now. So my application is dealing with the traffic. This is what I meant about the scaling. So we support both horizontal and vertical scaling. We can add more resources, like add more CPU or RAM to our application, or we can add more machines. And if we add more machines, we will be able to deal with more traffic. And from here, you can take different metrics, so the memory usage, response time, throughput, the dyno load. So after you have a lot of traffic, you are going to see what's going to happen here. You can set up access to your application. I can add collaborators. I can add you to collaborate with me with this app. You can also deploy. You can also have access to this. So this is also not only for individual developers, but also for companies and teams. And finally, I'm going to show you the resources. The resources is a way to access that marketplace, the Elements marketplace. Let's say that my application wants to have a PostgreSQL database. I can easily go here and find a Postgres add-on, click on Postgres, select the free version. You can use it for free up to 10,000 rows, which is more than enough for a application, for a pretty much a prototype application or for learning purposes. I can provision my database and I have a database right now. That's it. I did a click. I have access to a database. I can open the Heroku Postgres. And when I open the Heroku Postgres, I will be able to start creating tables, doing queries, and making sure that my application is working properly. So here I have a database. I can go to data clips, and data clips is an interface where I can start doing SQL queries and reports. I can create one data clip, but right now I don't have any tables. If I go to the Schema Explorer, I don't have any columns or tables, so we can't do anything here. So let's get back to the presentation. I'm going to continue showing a couple of more things, and at the end, I'm going to show you how to integrate this application we created with Salesforce. Whew. Now let's go again, presenter view, get my beautiful notes in here, and let's continue. I hope that was simple. I wasn't speaking too fast, but there is the video if you want to review it again. Okay, continue. So what we saw is that Heroku is going to simplify the deploy, manage, and scale process of your application. You take care of developing the app, creating the beautiful code, then you build and deploy, and we take care of the rest. We build that application, we run those applications on our dynos, we give you tools for managing that application, so you can also add add-ons to your app as the database we just saw. And now the users on the web can use the app. Right now, we are using the .herokuapp.com domain, but you can use your own domain. We offer tools to manage that DNS setup, and you can easily also provide your own SSL certificate. So as I told you, this is also very good for production applications. A lot of people are trusting Heroku, more than 26 billion requests per day. This means a bunch of different petitions or requests to our application that are deployed on Heroku. More than 9 million apps are running on Heroku as of today. More than 175 add-on services, those databases, log services, monitors, different tools to augment your application, and more than 2 million managed data stores, more than 2 million databases that are running on Heroku. Heroku is part of the Salesforce platform. Heroku is not something separate, it's not something individual that it's just a product right there. No, we are part of the Salesforce platform. So to develop apps on the Salesforce platform, and if you want to deliver maximum flexibility for your users, you can use both Salesforce Core and Heroku. So here you have all of the different technologies that we provide on the Salesforce platform. And here are highlighted on the different blocks all of the technologies that can run and are managed by Heroku. You can run Lightning Web Components open source applications on Heroku. You can use the different open source languages that I already told you. We provide the different tools like the Heroku CLI, build packs, and Heroku pipelines. If you want to do CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment on Heroku, you have access to an ecosystem with add-ons. Heroku provides an elastic architecture so applications can scale automatically. We have mobile templates for applications, etc. We provide a bunch of different tools that are part of the same Salesforce platform that you have available today to build your applications. Some of our products and services, I am not a salesman, so I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm just going to be highlighting the ones that matter most to me as a developer. So one is Heroku Postgres, is this beautiful open source database that we provide for you. It is relational and it's very performant, and a bunch of different companies and users are trusting in Postgres, and we provide a Postgres as a service for you. We also have Heroku Flow, which is our CI/CD pipeline. So you can continuous integrate and continuous deliver applications. We provide you with different environments, for example, staging and production, and one very interesting feature called review apps. When you are working with GitHub, you can open a pull request with some changes into your code, and that can be translated into a review app. Heroku will automatically deploy that pull request and will give an automated URL so your developers can go ahead and review that those changes are good and approve pretty much those changes from Heroku per se. So this is going to simplify the life of developer teams. And then on the CI/CD flow, you can like move your application from staging to production. You can also enable automatic deployments from GitHub. When you push to the main branch, for example, it will be automatically deployed to production or to staging, depending on how you configure that. And Heroku Connect is a seamless integration between Heroku and Salesforce. To be able to do this integration, we will need to have a Postgres SQL database. Heroku Connect, what it does is that it's going to have all of the different Salesforce objects are going to become available for you as PostgreSQL tables. So a developer that doesn't know anything about Salesforce or their object schema or how it works will be able to keep working with Salesforce data, but just manipulating that data using PostgreSQL. Heroku Connect works bidirectionally, so you can read information from Salesforce to Heroku, but you can also write information. You can also enable that bidirectionally support and modify data using an update script, an update query or something like that in Postgres, and that will update the information on Salesforce as well. And with Heroku Connect, you also have support to external objects. So if you already have tables in Postgres, let's say you have a third-party application that you have that you have running on Heroku, or your company bought a CMS or some different system that is using PostgreSQL to store the application, and you want to have that data available in Salesforce, you can do it by enabling the external objects. It will give you an all data connector. You can set up that on your Salesforce org. And now those external objects are going to be available for you as Salesforce objects. So you will be able to run reports and integrate that data into your Salesforce applications as well. Now it is time to show Heroku Connect before I finalize and I open some questions for the audience. So let's see how Heroku Connect works. Since we already have an application with Postgres, I'm going to be keeping and doing the demo here. So let's add Heroku Connect to my app. So I'm adding Connect. Submit the form, and now I have access to Heroku Connect. Beautiful. I noticed something that I have not logged into LastPass. So you are going to pardon me, and I need to do something in a moment. Okay, I added the Heroku Connect add-on into my application, and we need to do two things to set up the connection. One is to make sure we have a PostgreSQL database in our application. And second, we need to have a Salesforce org. So let's click on Setup Connection. It detects that we already have that database. Cool, we are good. It will create a new schema on this database. And on this schema, we are going to have a tables that contains those Salesforce objects. I'm clicking Next. And then I'm going to be authenticating or authorizing a Salesforce org. So let me go to production, Spring 21. That's going to be the API I'm going to use. Authorize. And it will go to login. In Salesforce, I'm going to pick up my DevHub user. And I told you that I don't have LastPass enabled right now. So pardon me, I will need to do some password thingies. My password is too long, so it is like this. And I need to do two-factor authentication because security. Sorry, I wasn't ready for this. Now security, I have the Vault opening. Now I have a password that I can open. So let me log in on my DevHub, authorize Heroku Connect, and we have a connection. So this is pretty good. Then what we need to do is map some objects. You know that Salesforce have hundreds of objects or thousands, depending of what have you created on your org, but you don't need all of those objects in your application. You might select some of those objects and some of those properties as well. So how can we do that? We are going to do some mappings. So I'm going to the mapping section. Right now, I don't have any object mapped. I'm going to create a mapping. And this will list all of the different Salesforce objects that are supported by Heroku Connect. Here you can find custom objects as well. So I'm going to be selecting one custom object of an application we have installed on our organization. You might recognize this is one of our sample apps. We are going to be mapping the bear object. This is a custom object that has some beautiful bears in it. And here it will show us how do we want to do this mapping. So what fields are going to be mapped? I need, it will select some that are required, but then I'm going to be picking some other different fields. Let's say I want to have the birth date. If I try to use the age, we are going to get a warning here because, hey, this is a calculated field. This might be using a formula, so this is not supported. So let's not use the age, but we can guess the age or calculate the age by having the birth date. We have the name of the bird. We have some observations. And let's say I want to have the weight because, sure, we want to do a follow-up on the bird's diet. Those are the fields that I want to have mapped. I will enable the Salesforce to my database synchronization. This will do some polling. So every 10 minutes is going to be asking for changes. If you are on the paid version, this poll frequency is going to be less. On the free version, every 10 minutes is going to be asking for new changes. If you change information in Salesforce, it will be asking that. But since there are certain objects that support the streaming API, I'm going to be clicking the accelerate polling. That way, if the objects support the streaming API, the synchronization is going to be almost real time. And if I want to write from my database to Salesforce, I can enable that by checking this field, write database updates to Salesforce, but it is letting on us that we will need to create an external ID field in that object so we can use that as a unique identifier. We don't have that, and I'm not going to be spending a bunch of time adding that field. So right now, this table is going to be read only. I will be able to get bears from Salesforce into my PostgreSQL database. That's it. Let's click on save. It is creating that table on my database. It is mapping fields. It is mapping rows. It is fetching the information. And right now I have that information in my database. How do I know? I can go to the Explorer, and here I have the objects that I fetch. Oksana, Ted, Poping, Ulzar, and the different bears. Beautiful. Now let's take a look at these bears in the PostgreSQL database. So we can use data clips. Remember that we have the data clips. Let me refresh. And right now it will detect that we have a new schema, which is Salesforce with some tables. And now we have the bird table in here with the different fields. So I can run a SQL query. Remember, this is SQL, not SQL. We are speaking to Postgres. So I'm going to be doing select the name, the bird date, and the observations, and the weight from Salesforce bear. Let's run that query. Let's hope that I'm doing it well. I need to add a name, bears, save and run. And beautiful, we have the results in here. As you can see, we are doing a query of Salesforce data from Heroku, from a PostgreSQL database. Cool, cool, cool. I can do that also from the CLI. If you are more a terminal person, you can use Heroku, PG, PSQL. PG is going to be the Postgres plugin. PSQL is going to be the PostgreSQL REPL, the terminal application to access the database. You don't need to provide the credentials or that long URL because it is going to be automated fetch by the Heroku tool because it detects that you have that database installed. And from here, I can say, okay, show me all of the relations, all of the tables that are part of the Salesforce schema. Here we have the bird table, beautiful, and I can do the same query. Let me do a copy and paste so it's easier. And we have the data here. Now, if we have to have this data on our application, we can do it. If we have the time, I think I have time to do this. If I don't have the time, please interrupt me. You organizer, you can open your mic and tell me, Julian, we are late. If not, I will be modifying my Node.js app to fetch this data and create an API route to return birds.
Please go ahead. No
problem. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. So we are using a Node.js application, and this will be covered next week, this same time, Thursday on YouTube Live. I will be teaching with more time how to access PostgreSQL data from a Node.js application, make sure you visit our YouTube channel where we are creating this beautiful content for you. So I'm going to be using the PostgreSQL driver that is available on the Node.js ecosystem to access the database from my code and create the same query. So I will need to install the PG driver. I'm installing that driver or that module into my project. Beautiful. I'm going to be running a command called Heroku config. Heroku config, it gives me the information that it's available on my Heroku application. And as you can see here, we have an environment variable on Heroku that contains the connection string with username and password of my database. So I want to store this information on a local file called .env. If you have worked with multiple programming languages, normally that .env file contains the environment variable information that can be loaded by an app depending of how it works. If I run Heroku Local, for example, Heroku Local automatically is going to load that .env file, and it will load that information into the environment of my app. So I will be able to have access to it. So this is a good way to test applications locally, and this application locally is going to connect to the database. Then I'm going to implement a new route. Remember, this is live coding. It might fail, but let's hope not. So I'm going to be using Postgres. So let's use Postgres. I can get a client class from that module. Let me use a pool. I prefer to use a connection pool instead of a single connection, just in case we are going to be scaling. Then my DV is a new instance of that pool, and I will need to pass a configuration object. So the configuration object has a connection string property that will have that database URL. How can we get that database URL? We get that database URL from the environment. So we can create a new constant with the database URL and get it from the environment. So here we are calling process.m, which is the Node.js way of getting environment variables. Let me move this. I prefer to have all of the requires in the same section. Sorry, a little bit of OCD. Okay, I have the database URL. And since we are using a production database, we need to enable SSL, like secure connection. So we have an SSL property here, and we are going to do this little trick so we don't have any issues testing locally, because we don't have the certificate. This is just to reject unauthorized connections. I think it's false or true. I think it's false. And we have the connection to the database. What we are going to be doing next is a new route. Let's create a new route called API bears. So when I call API bears, I will want to have the JSON file with the different bears. The request and response objects are going to be here. We are not getting any information from the request, so we are not going to be using the request, just the response. And let's make this function asynchronous, so we can use async await, which is a feature in JavaScript to be able to do asynchronous operations. And now I can get the results by awaiting on the database query, and we are going to be creating a query. So this is a way where we can query the database, and the query we are going to be doing is, let's copy paste because I'm lazy today and I want this to work. And I want to have my query here. Select name, birth date, observations, weight from Salesforce Bear. And I have the results. And then I want to return the results to my users by using response. This is going to be a JSON object, and I'm going to be passing that results object. That's it. I am querying and I'm returning. Let's see if it works. Let's hope it works. Let's run Heroku Local. Heroku Local is going to run my server. It runs the server. We are running locally, not on Heroku. We are running on my computer. So let me open localhost 5000. It still opens my application. Let me go to API bears. And it returns the bears. Oh, no, but I don't like this. I just want the bears, not this information. So let's return the rows property. Instead of getting the results, get the rows and return the rows. That's way better, right? Change, run again, refresh. Now I have an array of the bears. Well, before deploying to Heroku, let's do this after deploying to Heroku. We can deploy this to Heroku. Let's deploy this and run on our previously deployed Heroku application. How can we do that? Remember, we are using get, so I have some changes on my get application. I'm going to be adding the index, the package log, and the package JSON. Never add the .m file to your GitHub repository because you don't want to leak the username and password of your database. So never do this. So this file is going to be living on my local machine. So let me add just the files I want to commit. Let me create a new commit, add Postgres support. And let's push to Heroku, git push Heroku main. Now this will update my application on Heroku. And now from Heroku, I will be able to access the Salesforce data using this new API we created on the fly. Waiting for building, catching, pruning depth dependencies, creating the image, everything succeed, no issues. Whew. This live coding is working. Let me open the URL. The app is in there. Fantastic. Let's go to API bears. I have the bears. But remember, I told you that this information is synchronized with Salesforce. What if I change information in Salesforce? What happens with my Node.js app? So let me go to Salesforce. I'm going to log in salesforce.com. I am already on my dev hub. Open my dev hub. Beautiful. I have a bunch of different things on my dev hub because this is where I test my application. So you might see some cool stuff in here. I'm going to be looking for the bear object. So where is the bear object? Bears. I have bears in here. Let me go to all of the bears and let me update Baloo or Cindy. Cindy is the first in there. So we are going to put MX Cindy, changing a title, and that's it. Let's modify Cindy. Save Cindy. Previously, she was called Cindy. Now they are, it didn't update. Why? It is catching. It will change quickly. Well, we might need to wait until the poll works to be able to get that change. But now that we changed the information here, eventually we are going to see that change in our Node.js application. So it hasn't polled yet. So I was expecting it was going to be real time, but it seems not. So while the synchronization happens, let's continue with the presentation. I told you it was a live demo, so things happen. And that's it. Thank you very much. This is the content I had for today. I hope you like it and learn about Heroku. how to integrate Heroku with Salesforce, how to deploy applications, how to manage applications. And you let me know if we have time for some questions, or if somebody have asked in the chat. I don't have access to the chat right now, but this was it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julian. This should be clear. So I have two questions for sure.
Sure.
This synchronization, is it because of we selected 10 minutes of polling time?
Yeah, this is because of the 10 minutes of polling time. So if I go to the Heroku Connect, I can take a look at the synchronization. Let me refresh. Here we still have Cindy, so it has not synchronized yet of that polling. Let me go to the mappings. What I can do is, I think it's on the mappings. If I open the mapping, I have an action. I can say poll now. So I can trigger that polling manually. Let me see if it's working. Enable to request. It is not letting me poll. But it seems it worked. Yeah, it worked. I did poll now, and now it says MX Cindy.
Okay.
It was in the middle of the polling. It wasn't yet triggered that.
Right.
So now I have the data updated here.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yes.
One more question that I have. You said, like, in terms of if someone is working, if multiple people are working on the same repo and there is a pull request, Heroku
Yep.
is bringing a new feature or cool feature called creating some app and doing the
review apps. Okay, I think I have an example if you want to take a look.
That looks really cool to me.
Yeah. So this is if you have an application on a pipeline. For example, here I have my application on a pipeline. So I have two applications. One it's called LWC staging, and the other one it's Heroku LWC. One is running on the staging, the other one is running on production. If I create a pull request into this repo, Julian Duque Heroku LWC playground, should we do that? I think.
Yeah.
Do we have time?
Yeah, we have time. We have time till 3:30.
Okay, this is using review apps. So let me go quickly. I was not prepared, but I can always clone this repo. Git clone this repo. Go ahead and open this, and let me create a new branch. Check out new future. Check out -b new future. Open my code. Let me change the code. So I'm going to be going to source. What? I don't need this. Source, modules, app.html, and hello Trailblazers. This is a new feature. Now, hello Trailblazers from Kitchener. Is that correct, Kitchener?
Yep, that's correct.
Beautiful. So this is the new feature. I'm going to add a special greetings for you. I'm going to be adding this change. Commit new salutation. Git push origin and new future. So I'm creating a new future on GitHub. Mm-hmm. And then we will need to create a new pull request, right? So I'm clicking this to create a new pull request. New salutation for Kitchener. Create a new pull request. And here, it will start a deployment process. Let me refresh to see if we get information from here. We don't have yet information from here. Oh, yes. Julian Duque requested a deployment to this URL, which is random, and it's pending right now. If I go to the pipeline, now you can see this on the review app section, and it is building that review app.
Okay.
Since it's a Lightning Web Component application, it might take a little bit of time, but you can click on View Log. And right now it's doing the same deployment process automatically. And I am not doing anything. It's just a pull request. And once this is done, it will notify the pull request and it will be able to access the application from here. So let's wait until it finishes. So what happens if when I merge this feature is going to be auto-deployed to main.
Mhm.
And it will be on this staging app.
Correct.
So here, our team will be able to take a look at the staging. This was approved. This is on main. And from here, I will be able to click on promote to production. So I can move my application to the production environment. So let me keep checking the log. It is building the Lightning Web Components. So it will finalize. Now it's finalizing the process. This takes a little bit more time because the process is more complex than the previous application we were building.
Mhm.
Let's
This, this is really cool.
This is one of my favorite features. And if you have tests on that repo, I don't have tests on that repo. You can also enable the CI/CD, the CI feature. So it will run the tests on the application. And if the test don't pass, this application is not going to be deployed. So you will be able to also enable the CI. Obviously, this has an extra charge, but it will run the test and make sure your test works and then promote the application and move the application on different stages.
So test will run before creating the review app, or like
It will run the test before creating the review app.
Okay.
You can configure that.
Okay.
For example, wait for CI to pass.
Okay.
If it doesn't pass, it's not going to do anything.
Right.
And you can also enable the destroyed stale review apps. For example, after 5 days or 1 day that nobody has reviewed the app, it will delete it because obviously a review app is going to charge resources, and we don't want to have an application that nobody is reviewing or that it's already reviewed in there for a while. So this is a way to keep the resources steady. Okay, deploy today. As you can see, the application is deployed. I can go ahead and do open app. And it says, hello, Trailblazers from Kitchener. And it is a specific URL that it is not staging nor production. If I merge, let me merge, because why not? This is an example project and it's a playground, so I can merge, confirm the merge, delete the branch. And now that I merge it, it will be moved to a staging. And if you can see, now it is building on a staging and it is redeploying a staging. And after it redeploys on a staging and everything looks good for me, I can click on promote to production and this will be moved to the production application. As you can see, these are two different apps that are running on Heroku, but are part of the same pipeline.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good that I was able to show this feature.
Oh, this is awesome. And I saw like you have deleted the branch, right? So deleting the branch is not deleted the review app, right? It's probably because of that 5 days time window mentioned.
Oh, yeah. It is still in there, but the app, I think the app, since I merged the app, now the app, it is not in here. Okay. It clean up the app.
It clean up the app. It's more like that similar feature, the Scratch org.
Yeah, it is, for example, when you open a pull request and your team is super busy and after 5 days, they have not reviewed the app is going to be clean up.
Correct.
Because, yeah, why having an app running if nobody's taking a look at it? You can also change the different branches. I am using main to do the auto deploy, but you can use a staging if you want to use staging. For example, I enable the automatic deploys on main. You can also enable automatic deploys. For example, when you move from a staging to main, you can also enable automatic deploys on this case. So the promote to production is going to happen automatically. You can deploy on a specific branch, you can move things, you can view the latest build of the application. This is very useful to manage the life cycle of an app on Heroku. And you can give your team access to these specific pipelines. So right now I'm an individual developer, but you can have, for example, this lifecycle team being able to access these and manage the pipeline, and the developers are just going to be opening pull requests. So you can granularly manage that access to your application as well.
Mm-hmm. No, that's cool. So meanwhile, the app is getting built. I have one question from Rutika. So the
Sure.
question is like, apart from Heroku Connect, what are the different ways to integrate Salesforce and Heroku?
That's an amazing question, and thank you very much. So you might know, well, this is valid on the JavaScript ecosystem because it's the one that I know. It's using the Salesforce SDK to access the API. So we have a new sample gallery application called eCars, and we do the integration using JS Force, which is the Salesforce SDK for JavaScript. So we can access the full Salesforce API. We can use the graph um, the graph API as well using this SDK, and this is an SDK for Node. There might be some similar SDKs from from other programming languages, so you might need to find those. I'm more well versed on the JavaScript ecosystem, and you can use this one to do integrations. The main thing is that you will need to be more careful about the security when using JS Force. So you will need to create or an OAuth authentication mechanism, or a specific token, or using the username, credentials, and security token as well. Some of those are going to be more secure than others, but that's the only caveat by using JS Force, is that you need to be a little bit more careful while doing the authentication to Salesforce. But JS Force is a very good way to do that integration between the Node or JavaScript application that is running on Heroku and Salesforce.
That's
Thank you for that question.
Mhm.
Thank you for that question. Let me see if it takes a lot of time. Oh no, it's already deployed. Now it is just waiting for the output finished.
Right on
So
time.
now my change is in a staging. I can open a staging. Hello Trailblazers from Kitchener. Let me open production. This is production. Production, it doesn't have the Kitchener salutation. So before promoting, it just says hello Trailblazers. So if I click on promote, it will move from staging to production, promote, and now it doesn't need to build it because it is already built. If I refresh, it will say, hello, Trailblazers from Kitchener.
Mhm.
And that's how I moved an application from a pull request to production. And I can take a look at the latest build, all of the information, and that's what happened.
This is awesome. This is
Okay.
this is mind blowing.
Yeah, it's very good. I love this feature. And as you can see from the dashboard, the main philosophy behind Heroku is developer experience. So we try to provide the best experience for developers. So it is not going to be super complicated, a bunch of different commands, configuration files. Remember what I told you at the beginning, the idea is to abstract those concepts for you. So you are able to focus just on the application development and let us, that we are the experts, manage your application for you.
Mhm. Nope.
And that's pretty much what I have for all of you. I'm happy that you like this content. You can drop me a tweet with feedback. If you like this talk, you can mention me. Remember, my information is we have the slides open somewhere, but I think I already closed them. Yes. Remember, this is my Twitter account. You can follow me on Twitter. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can drop me a DM and I will be more than happy to reply. And if you like this talk, you can also mention me and leave a comment there in Twitter.
Absolutely. We'll do that. And again, thank you, Julian, for coming and giving this awesome session. It's super helpful. And as promised at the beginning, I'm going to upload the session in YouTube and share the session recording URL with you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much for inviting me. I know I'm sometimes super busy and wasn't able to do this before, but more than happy to come back. As I told you at the beginning, we are going to be having a new release this year around Salesforce functions, which is something that I'm super excited about. That it's also going to use Node.js, Java, and it will have a very tight integration with Salesforce that you will love it. It's going to be way more mind-blowing that this, and I will be more than happy to come back and share all of the awesomeness we are building at Salesforce.
Absolutely, absolutely. We need you. We need another session on that.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay.
So
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Julian.
thank you very much, and nice to meet you all. And remember, drop a line on Twitter. Feel free to send me a DM if you have any questions, and more than happy to reply.
Absolutely, we'll do that. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Okay, bye bye, you all, and nice to meet you.